Grace's lips parted, but no sound emerged at first. Her mind was a blur of memories, shards from the past colliding with the present. Thomas and Paris. Their names burned in her chest, like a wound that never healed. She had kept their secret hidden for so long, buried beneath layers of remorse and half-truths, but it was finally coming to the surface. Bill's wrath was the last push, the breach in the dam. "I didn't want it to come to this," she finally murmured, her voice firm despite the quiver in her hands. "I never wanted any of this." Bill took a step forward, his boots slapping across the tarmac. "You can't play the victim, Grace. Not after everything you did to them. To us." His grip on the rifle tightened, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to stop breathing. The distant hum of the city receded, leaving only the two of them, caught in a moment that could end in blood. Grace's gaze shifted to the gun and then back to Bill's face. She saw the anguish buried behind the rage, the betrayal that had festered since Thomas and Paris' disappearance. She'd told him fragments of the truth throughout the years, enough to keep him near but never enough to understand the big picture. With the barrel of his rifle just a heartbeat away from killing her, she had no choice. Her only trump card was the secret she had kept hidden for so long. "They didn't just disappear," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "They have been abducted. Kidnapped." Bill froze, his hand still on the revolver, his eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" Grace gulped hard, the words weighing heavily on her throat. She'd spent years avoiding this moment, but there was no escaping it now. Thomas and Paris did not flee as many assumed. They were taken. By people who wanted something from me. Bill's jaw tightened, his knuckles whitening around the pistol grip. "You are lying. Again." "I'm not," Grace said, taking a step back and brushing her shoulder against the cold brick wall. "I vow to Bill. I've lied about a lot of stuff but not this. They were taken because of me. Because of what I know." The alley appeared to shrink about them, the walls closing in as the truth began to emerge. Grace's thoughts returned to that night 6 years ago, when everything went wrong. Thomas and Paris had been her closest allies, and her family was all but blood. The three of them had worked together to investigate things they shouldn't have. Corporate secrets, government cover-ups, and agreements made in the shadows so deep that even the devil would have hesitated. They had been irresponsible and confident, believing they could disclose the truth without repercussions. However, the persons they were chasing did not follow the rules. They were playing with life. It all began with a hint, a whispered name in a smoky bar, Viridian. A corporation so powerful that it functioned like a shadow government, with tentacles reaching from technology to politics to organized crime. Grace, Thomas, and Paris had been hunting leads for months, putting together a puzzle that led to something massive. A corrupt network capable of bringing down entire systems. They'd come so close to cracking it, to discovering the evidence that would blow everything up. Then one night, Thomas and Paris disappeared. Grace recalled the call. She was told to stop digging by an unfamiliar voice that was chilly and exact. "We have them," the speaker had stated. "Keep going and they'll die." She had stopped. She had destroyed her notes, removed her data, and walked away from the investigation. She told herself it was to save them, but she knew it was cowardice. She had prioritized her own safety over theirs, and the guilt had consumed her ever since. Bill's voice shocked her back into the present. "Who took them?" he demanded, his grip on the rifle easing slightly, but his eyes remained rigid. "So why didn't you tell me?" Grace laughed bitterly, and the sound bounced off the alley walls. "Tell me? You would have gone after them, Bill. You would have gotten yourself murdered. Or worst, you'd have killed them. You don't realize that," he exclaimed, his voice harsh. "They were my pals too, Grace. I deserved to know." "You deserve to live," she responded. "That is why I did not tell you. That's why I kept it all hidden, why I let you despise me rather than drag you into this mess." Bill's hand slipped from the gun, but his shoulders remained rigid, his fists clenched at his sides. "You made me think they had abandoned us. You led me to believe they had just left. Do you know what that did to me?" Grace's eyes hurt, but she refused to cry. "I understand exactly what it did. I noticed it every day. The way you stared at me, the way you stopped believing me. But I can't tell you, Bill. Not without placing you in the same peril as they are. He shook his head, inhaling sharply. Who are they, Grace? Who took them? She paused, the name scorching on her tongue. Saying it out seemed like conjuring a demon, like bringing to life something she'd been avoiding for years. But there was no going back now. Viridian, she finally replied. It was Viridian. Bill's eyes widened, recognition flashing across his face. He'd heard the name before, in murmurs and tales, the sort of stories people whispered when they thought no one was listening. Viridian was more than simply a firm. It was a machine, a faceless monster that crushed everything in its path. Are you telling me Viridian kidnapped Thomas and Paris? Why? Because we were getting too close, Grace explained, her voice scarcely audible now. We had evidence, documents, recordings, and proof of what they were doing. They couldn't allow us to expose them. So they abducted Thomas and Paris to silence me. Bill's hands were shaking now, not from anger, but from something deeper, something that resembled terror. So you just let them go? Didn't you fight for them? I tried. Grace's voice broke as the weight of her remorse came crushing down. I tried, Bill. I searched for them. I pursued every clue, whisper, and dead end. But Viridian, they're everywhere. They have individuals in locations you couldn't possibly comprehend. Every time I came close, someone died. A contact, a source, or a friend. I couldn't continue without endangering more lives. So you gave up, Bill remarked, his voice cold. You let them win. Grace flinched as the words wounded deeper than a knife. I did not give up. I survived. And I kept their whereabouts a secret, thinking that one day I'd be able to reunite them. But I couldn't do it alone, and I couldn't drag you along. Bill turned away, raking his hands through his hair as he paced the alleyway. The gun remained tucked into his belt, but it now seemed like an afterthought, a prop in a performance that had taken an unexpected turn. Why now? He inquired, his voice softer. Why tell me right now? Grace curled her fingers around the locket in her pocket. Inside was a snapshot of her, Thomas, and Paris taken in happier times, when they believed they might change the world. She hadn't looked at it in years, but she could still see their expressions frozen in time. Because you're about to do something you can't take back, she told me. And because I'm tired of carrying this alone. Bill came to a halt, his back to her. He did not say anything for a long time, and the stillness was deafening. When he finally turned, his expression was unreadable. What do you want me to do, Grace? Do you forgive me? Can I help you? What? I don't expect forgiveness, she added, her voice firm. I'm not asking you to help me. I'm asking you to decide what happens next. You can pull the trigger and you might feel better for a moment. Or you may listen to me and we'll figure out how to find them. Bill's hand jerked toward the pistol again, but he didn't pull it. Instead, he took a step closer, his gaze searching hers for something. Truth, perhaps, or a reason to trust her. If they're alive, he continued softly. Where are they? Grace's heart hammered. This was the thing she dreaded the most, and she'd never been able to confirm. I don't know, she said. But I've got a lead. A name. Someone who may be aware of where they are being held. Bill's voice was strong and demanding. Elena Voss, Grace explained. She's a fixer for Viridian, doing their dirty work. If anyone knows where Thomas and Paris are, it's her. Bill's jaw tightened again, but this time not out of anger. It was done on purpose. Do you trust this lead? No, Grace replied honestly. But it's all we've got. The alley fell silent again, the weight of their common history crushing down on them. Bill's hand eventually slipped away from the rifle, and he took a deep, ragged breath. If we do this, he added, if we go after them, no more lies, Grace. No more secrets. She nodded, her throat tightening. No more secrets. They stood there for a minute, two broken people in a broken world, tied by a past they couldn't change and a future they couldn't foresee. The rain began to pour again, softly at first, then stronger, briefly wiping away the blood and shame. Grace opened her palm to expose the locket, its silver surface shimmering in the dim light. She didn't open it since she didn't need to. Thomas and Paris were present, in her emotions, in her guilt, and in the war that was only beginning. Bill stepped forward, his voice quiet but forceful. Where do we start? Grace looked into his eyes, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of optimism. We'll start with Elena Voss. The rain dropped harder, distorting the world around them, but Grace felt clearer than she had in years. The secret was out, and the truth was revealed. Thomas and Paris were somewhere out there, and she was determined to locate them or die trying. For the first time in a long time, she did not run. She was fighting, and Bill was with her. The metropolis surged around them, a live entity unconcerned about their suffering or promises. Viridian was watching and waiting somewhere deep within, its shadow reaching across everything they treasured. Grace wasn't sure if they could win, or if Thomas and Paris were still alive. But she knew one thing. She was finished hiding. The alley spread out behind them, a route leading nowhere and everywhere. They strolled out together, the rain soaking through their clothes, the burden of the truth heavy but tolerable. For the time being it was enough. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers teaser video for the week of August 11th to 15th suggests that Bill Spencer will promise that Grace Buckingham will pay. Taylor Hayes will also refuse to remove Rich Forrester's ring. So this is what B&B fans may expect. The show's weekly teaser begins with Nick Marone presenting Brooke Logan with an engagement ring, putting his proposal preparations back on track following all of the drama in Italy. Nick will tell Brooke that things aren't over for them and confess his love, but she may reject him. Ridge offered Brooke hope when he saved her life and promised to make things right. Therefore Nick's proposal may be refused. Ridge assured Brooke that he would never take her for granted again and kissed her. It's clear who his heart belongs to. It's simply an issue of how to manage the situation with Taylor, as Ridge is still engaged to her. She has a future, but it's not with you because I am not taking off this ring, Taylor tells Ridge in B&B's weekly promo. Of course, Taylor may alter her mind if Ridge admits to smooching Brooke and expresses a wish to reunite with her. Depending on how things go, Taylor may toss that ring in Ridge's face for breaking her heart. Meanwhile, Sheila Sharp will confront Lee Finnegan about why she saved Luna Nozawa and then faked her death. Liam Spencer and Hope Logan will also brief Bill on what they gathered from Grace, who admitted to the brain cancer hoax before going to the police station to turn herself in. Bill will lose his mind when he finds Grace duped him into paying $1 million and putting Liam through this horrific situation. Liam will explain that Grace prescribed medications to simulate brain tumor symptoms, making Bill realize how far her lie went. Bitch is going to pay, Bill declares with a snarl in the weekly preview video. According to the Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, Bill's anger will be released once he learns of the bogus illness news, so stay tuned. Grace will pay, Bill said, his voice low but resolute, each syllable set in stone. She's gone too far this time, and I'm done allowing her to play her games. She's going to answer for every lie, deception, and tear she's caused. His eyes swept the room, briefly focusing on each person. Steffi, Liam, Ridge, and Taylor, whose fingers involuntarily brushed against the ring on her left hand. The ring. Ridge's ring. The one she refused to remove, no matter how many times Bill hinted, suggested, or flatly demanded it. Taylor's normally soft and friendly eyes were defiant now, and her chin lifted higher as she met Bill's gaze. She was not intimidated by Bill or anybody else. The ring on her finger was more than just a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol, a link to a past she was unwilling to let go of, and a promise she still kept near to her heart. Ridge, standing near the fireplace, shifted uncomfortably, his emotions a jumbled mess that he hadn't yet untangled. The room felt like a pressure cooker, with everyone waiting for the lid to blow. Bill's commitment was about more than just Grace, despite the fact that she was the spark that started the fire. Grace, with her sneaky grins and planned movements, had been causing havoc for months. She'd wormed her way into the Forresters' inner circle, whispering misgivings, sowing seeds of dissension, and manipulating circumstances to her advantage. Her latest stunt, spreading suspicions about Taylor's commitment to Ridge, had sent Bill over the edge. He'd always been protective of those he cared about, and while his relationship with Taylor was tricky, he wasn't going to let Grace's plans destabilize the delicate equilibrium they'd all been attempting to preserve. Bill, you don't get to dictate what happens here, Taylor stated calmly but firmly, breaking the tense stillness. This is not only about Grace. This is about us, about Ridge, about me, about the decisions we've made and continue to make. She looked to Ridge, her eyes softening for a moment before hardening again as she returned to Bill. You don't get to decide what I do with this ring, or what it means to me. Ridge's jaw hardened and his hands clenched at his sides. He tried to say something to calm the situation, but words failed him. He was stuck in the middle, as he usually was, torn between the woman he'd loved for decades and the man who had become an odd comrade in being a relentless competition. Bill's promise to make Grace pay was one thing, but Taylor's unwillingness to remove the ring was a deeper hurt, cutting into Ridge's pride and bringing up memories of unfulfilled promises and hearts left in limbo. Leaning against the arm of a leather sofa, Steffi crossed her arms, her sharp eyes flitting between her father, Taylor, and Bill. She had seen this dance before, love, devotion, and betrayal intertwined in the Forrester family drama. "Look, Bill," she added, her tone sharp, "we all want Grace to bear the consequences of her actions. But this," she gestured vaguely at Taylor's hand, the ring glinting in the soft light, "isn't about her. This is personal. And you're making it dirtier than it should be." Liam, standing near the window, let out a faint sigh. He'd been dragged into this mess against his choice, as is customary, but he couldn't remain mute. "Steffi's right," he remarked, his voice softer than the others but just as forceful. "Grace is undeniably a problem. She has been playing us all, and she is good at it. But Bill, coming in here like a bulldozer and tossing about ultimatums isn't helpful. And Taylor, that ring." He paused, shaking his head. He did not need to complete the phrase. Everyone understood what he meant. Taylor's fingers curled protectively over the ring, as if to conceal it from the room's gaze. "This ring," she declared, her voice shaking with excitement, "is mine. It's not a negotiating chip, a weapon, or something for everyone to scrutinize and discuss. It's a piece of my past, my heart. And I'm not going to remove it simply because it makes any of you uncomfortable." Bill's brows narrowed, his patience fraying like a weary rope. "Taylor, I am not asking you to erase your history. I'm asking you to look at what's going on right now. Grace is exploiting the ring, and your relationship to Ridge, to build a wedge between everyone in this room. She's banking on you to hang on to the past, so she can continue influencing the present. And you're playing straight into her hands." Ridge finally replied, his voice hoarse and emotional. "That's enough, Bill. You don't get to stand there and tell Taylor what she should and shouldn't do. You have no idea what that ring means to her, to us." He took a step nearer Taylor, his gaze seeking hers. "But Taylor, perhaps he's not completely incorrect. Grace is an issue and we must address her. Together." The word together hung in the air, full with significance. For years Ridge and Taylor had been a unit, a team, even when the world tried to tear them apart. But now, with Bill's commitment and Taylor's steadfast reluctance to let go of the ring, that unity felt brittle, like a shattered glass about to break. Steffi stepped forward, frustrated. "Okay, everyone, please stop. We're all talking in circles and it's not getting us anywhere. Grace is the issue here, not the ring, Dad or Taylor. Can we focus on that? Bill, you said she was going to pay. How? What is the plan? Because I'm sick of all this posturing." Bill's lips curled into a vicious smile, one that threatened harm to anyone who crossed him. "Oh, I've got a plan," he continued, lowering his voice to a menacing whisper. "Grace believes she's untouchable, but she isn't. I have people looking into her past, every transaction she made, every lie she told. She has skeletons and I am going to bring them all to light. By the time I'm done, she won't have a single ally in this town." Liam cocked an eyebrow, dubious yet curious. "That is a daring move, Dad. But Grace is tricky. She has a knack of twisting things so that she appears to be the victim. Are you sure you can track her down?" "I don't need to pin her down," Bill responded. "I only need to expose her. Allow the world to see who she truly is. And believe me, Liam, when I'm finished, no one will be deceived by her act again." Taylor listened, her face impassive, but her fingers remained on the ring. She wasn't persuaded by Bill's idea, his rage, or even Ridge's call for togetherness. Grace was an issue, but Taylor understood that the true battle was more than just exposing a schemer. It was about trust, loyalty, and the decisions they'd all made and those they were still too terrified to confront. "Bill," she finally responded, her voice firm, "you can pursue Grace all you want, but don't assume this is all about her. This is about you demanding control over me, Ridge, and our family. And I'm not going to allow you use Grace to control my life." Bill's eyes flared, But before he could answer, Ridge moved between them, hands raised. Okay, that's enough. We will not fix this by tearing each other apart. Taylor is correct. This isn't just about Grace. But Bill isn't wrong either. Grace has been using us, and we must stop her before she causes any further damage. Steffi agreed, her determination strengthening. Then let us do it. Let us take her down. But we do it smartly, not with Bill's bulldozer approach. We need proof, not just promises, Liam added, his tone hesitant but insistent. I can help with that. I have contacts at Spencer Publications. We can look into Grace's finances, relationships, and anything else that could give us an advantage. But we have to be cautious. She's got eyes everywhere. The room grew silent as the weight of their collective decision settled on them. For the first time in what seemed like an eternity, they were united, not by love or allegiance, but by a common adversary. Grace had underestimated them, which would be her doom. But, even as they began to strategize, Taylor's palm stayed on the ring, her emotions torn between the past and the present. Bill's promise to make Grace pay was a battle cry, but Taylor's refusal to take Ridge's ring was a quieter revolt, one that spoke of a love that refused to fade, no matter how hard the world attempted to tear it apart. As the conversation progressed, plans formed and alliances changed. The ring glinted in the light, a silent reminder that some commitments were more difficult to break than others. And as Grace's plans unraveled, the bigger question remained. Could this family, torn apart by love and sorrow, ever genuinely reunite? Only time will tell.